vibe music with a good vibe and a message at the same time.
There it is. That's what's missing, the message.
Yeah, yeah,
We too
indeed.
busy, ranking and talking all kind of nonsense and who shot who and who
Oh,
hates who. That
yeah.
wasn't music back in the day. It's supposed
No,
to
definitely.
uplift, not
Yeah.
depressed.
Well, it's good to have you back on here, Doc.
Good to be back, beloved.
I think this is the first time this year, right? Because you was
Oh
on in
yeah,
December.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But
yeah.
it won't be the last time. It's all
Doc,
right.
how January went by that fast, Doc? Come on, man.
Wow.
That had to be
It
a
was
record breaker.
that
That
boy.
had to be. Oh, Doc. It was like 12 days. January felt like 13 days, Doc. Come on,
Boom.
man.
Like January had some jetpacks on its
Yeah,
ass, and it just
yeah.
took off and went. Man, I'm looking at the 30. I'm saying this is 31st. It was just the first. Woo! I said, well, you
Incredible.
know what? It's cool because during that time, I got a lot of feedback from the last webinar, and a lot of people had missed it, especially from overseas.
Yeah, yeah.
So, during that first part, I said, you know what? I talked to wifey, and she said, go ahead and do it, because she's not well, and I'm focusing most of my time and everything with her.
Hmm.
So, I said, okay, I'm going to do it. It's actually for you to be repositioned and recommissioned
Hmm.
someplace else because that's where
Hmm.
you're mostly needed. I felt I was mostly needed here, which is why I was recommissioned back to the United States from the West Indies, for instance,
Hmm. Hmm.
which is why you were recommissioned and were told to take up the gauntlet and get into the media because
Hmm.
of what you had to accomplish.
Hmm.
I've been
Hmm.
threatened. My life has been threatened numerous times for what I did, especially when I exposed the AIDS hoax.
Mm.
That was, that they came after me with the feds. They came after me with even my own people came after me, and it was like, should I be worried now? Because my family, when your family is saying to you, "Oh, Dad, I'm worried about you," and so forth, then you start getting a little bit more cautious, and you
Right.
start saying, "Okay, well, where my priorities lie." Well, I told my children, and I told my wife, and my wives at the time, that um, I'm not going to pull back the momentum of my mission because this shell was threatened. A lot of what I've done has been placed on tapes and on discs, on cassettes. That's how far back I go. And everything that I've said resonates towards upliftment. A lot of
Hmm.
people may not see it or may not feel it at the time, but everything I have attempted to do from my heart was to uplift. So
Hmm.
if I am going to be taken out by me doing what I enjoy and what I feel to be a righteous mission, then only a coward would even step into this. That's why I was telling a lot of the brothers and sisters back in the day when they wanted to take this particular platform and start playing like it's some kind of game to be a money making scheme when you want to debate this and debate that and you're having rivals against so and so, and it was turning the platform hostile against the very people that we wanted to actually benefit from it.
Right.
So, I said to everybody, I said, listen, this is a self destructive way of taking something that the ancestors handed down to us and our elders handed down to us, and you are polluting it. You are undermining it, just like they undermined hip hop. And they started bringing in all this gang stuff and so forth. That they undermined something that was supposed to be joyous, uplifting. So people like yourselves, people like Bobby and Dr. Blair, and all of the young brothers and sisters who are out there working towards upliftment, their lives are in danger too. So why should I, who actually helped put these young people on, what would it look like for me to back off and say that I got to retire at a time when I would be needed, just like my elders? I needed my elders around before they left, but they left me such a treasure
Right.
They left me Midas's intellectual treasure, not the gold, but the intellectual treasure, almost like a Midas,
Mm-hmm.
uh, wealth. And I can't do anything different. If my life is taken doing what my joy, then I'm going to be smiling and laughing as I leave the body. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to be afraid. I'm not
Beautiful.
going to be crying.
Beautiful.
You know.
Well, let's get a little bit of OG advice from you, Doc, to the younger brothers out there. Do you feel as though your wife, for all the brothers out there, do you feel as though your wife takes away some of the warrior spirit in you? And is that a good or a bad thing? Is that for the betterment of you?
Well, that's a
Or,
woman.
yeah.
That's your woman. She tapers and tempers your energy. She gives you a chance. When they talk about Sophia, the word
Mm-hmm.
Sophia is gravitates to the word wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
So what a woman does by her questioning your actions is causing you to mine the wisdom for your actions.
Mm-hmm.
When they ask why you're doing this, do you know that you have these particular things that you, as the master, as the leader, as the head of the household, these are your other responsibilities. They're also to us. Have you
Mm-hmm.
taken that into consideration? And so I
Mm-hmm.
would say to her, beloved, when you joined me on this mission and on this path, did you know what the circumstances and consequences could be?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot, my wife had to get to that because she's very feminine, I turned her into this warrior energy,
Right.
because I could not get a swear word out of her mouth.
Oh man.
She doesn't swear, she doesn't do all of this. I mean, she's like super feminine. And in
Mm-hmm.
that super femininity, it calmed my beast.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me think twice about my other responsibilities, but I had to tell them I cannot be who I am not, or who not in my double negative. I'm saying you cannot make me not be me because I'm going to simmer. I'll be very hard to live with, you see, and you don't want me in a cantankerous, argumentative mood consistently when I could channel that into my book. I could channel that into problem solving for my people. And that's the beauty. You are a spark. You are that platform that allows people like myself and all the other brothers that you had at the beginning of the show with that incredible opening. All of them are, there's too many of us warriors. When one
Mm-hmm.
goes down, two is going to take its place. So
Indeed.
why should I worry about this shell? I have
Mm-hmm.
over 300 videos circling the planet right now.
Mm-hmm.
300.
Mm-hmm.
And I have them coming from different parts of the world that I didn't even know existed.
Mm-hmm.
What is that worth?
Mm-hmm.
If I had to do it all over again, beloved, I better ask me, would you do it again? Yep, damn sure would be. But where do I
Mm-hmm.
start? I'm
Mm-hmm.
down.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Wow. It's interesting, Doc. You mentioned some of the speakers that I had in the beginning, the brothers. You mentioned the brothers and the warriors in the beginning.
Right.
If I look at all the brothers that's in the beginning, and this is
Mhm.
very interesting, including yourself. Doc is a musician. Dr. Phil Valentine is a musician. Brother
Right.
Rich is a musician, music
Yes.
producer. Dr. B
Yes.
Serious is a musician,
Yes.
music producer. Red and
Mhm.
Blue Pill are musicians, poets, rappers, etc.,
Right.
etc.
Right.
Seven Beaumont is a musician, music
Mm.
producer.
There you go.
Who else I had on there? Pretty much what I'm trying to say. I was just talking to a brother named Yaki yesterday. He was
Hmm.
telling me how his first passion before getting into this music, getting into this information was music. He was a rapper.
Right.
Pretty much everybody I know that's in this information, first love was music. And they
Right.
sacrificed music to get into this information. And this is going to
Mhm.
lead me somewhere, Doc.
Yeah.
Michi Akaku. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Michio Kaku.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he talks on the internet about string theory. And he said when he talks about string theory, the universe is composed of these tiny little strings, what we call, I think, the electrons, or I hope I'm getting the name right, but they're
Yeah.
really tiny little strings, like a
Hmm.
guitar string, vibrating musical notes.
Yeah.
So he was talking about how the music is this cosmic symphony. Now I'm
Yeah.
thinking about him talking about the music is the universe, and you talked about this before, being a
Mhm.
cosmic symphony. And I'm thinking about everybody I know conscious, first love was music. Talk to me about string theory, music, and how we just naturally gravitate to be music artists. Because it's very interesting to me.
Yeah. Well, what they speak about is the fact that the string theory is that vibrational tones start out, the mind of, let me just go back to the mind of the
Yes,
creator
yes,
emanates
yes,
outward. And
yes.
that emanation is what we call the will, the universal will. As the will is, I guess, further from source, it begins to slow down and attenuate, and what is willed becomes manifest.
Mm-hmm.
That manifestation happens in the form of what they call strings. This is quantum physics actually trying to take musical notes and the flow of the waves of life, and then attenuating it into these fibers,
Mm-hmm.
these etheric fibers that they call the strings from the string. And remember, it's a theory, it's not actually something that is real.
Mm-hmm.
What they're trying to do is deal with metaphysics and put it into their own language so that they can actually own that particular scenario about what creation and what life really is. It's not what they think it is. It is a movement in the way that divine will, manifests itself through the individual components that constitute the one thing manifesting as the many. So the manifestation of the many happens along strings of consciousness where you are conscious at the level of consciousness based upon what the will or how you react, how your spark reacts to divine will. So,
Mm-hmm.
divine will with you, for example, would have a certain resonance towards something that you feel you must accomplish. And that essentially was a contract or something that your spark was based in happening. And everything is nothing more than experience.
Mm-hmm.
Everything boils down to experience. I don't
Mm-hmm.
care if it's murder, if it's suicide, whatever it is that you choose to do with your avatar, and what you do with the consciousness that motivates that avatar is temporal, and it is essentially choice, and it is nothing more than an experience. It boils down to that. What we do while we're in the avatar is to elaborate upon our own individual and collective perception of what those strings are, individual strings are doing within us. And some of us resonate to certain strings where we collaborate and we become tribes, we become nations, we become man and wife, and so forth. And these have to do with the way that these strings and what we call strings, but what I call them are divine intentions.
Mm-hmm.
These intentions are essentially what exists to manifest themselves so that the experience may become the feedback mechanism for the creator. So when they start talking about string theory, these quantum physicists essentially look at life as it's manifesting itself towards an effect. They never go back to cause. They
Right.
just tell you, well, Big Bang. All right, so if nothing existed, where did everything come from? So they say nothing was there, and all of a sudden, boom, everything was there. Nothing or something cannot come out of nothing. Everything pre existed. And that's why they can't figure out what the so called aspect of universal intelligence and God really is. Cosmic and so-called what do you call it? Science, quantum
Mm.
science is only dealing with what it can see. It never goes back to a creative source. They block any reference to an intelligent source. Everything just comes out of nowhere. And that way they want to be the God that essentially is the one that dictates what reality is.
Mm.
But we already have that encoded in us if we just stop getting caught up in all the beautiful colors and every little thing we look under the microscope and see. Everything has to be conquered. Everything must be known in the physical. But they don't understand that all they have to do is to be still and know that I am. They don't know.
Indeed. You know who Terrence Howard is, right?
I love Terrence Howard. Me and him going to have to get together one day.
Man, if you ever talk to the brother, please tell the brother. There's a brother named Brother Rich who want him on the show.
No doubt.
I need to
No
get.
doubt.
But the brother, he for the last couple of years, 5, 6 years, he's been going around the universities to the scientists, and he's been dealing with physics, and he's been saying
Flower of
how
life.
that, huh?
The flower of life.
Yeah, he's been dealing with the flower of life,
Right.
and he's been dealing with this mathematical equation where he's telling everybody about one times. It's impossible for 1 times 1 to equals 1 because to multiply means to be that's like
Outside.
yeah, So how can if you're multiplying something, how can something stay the same if you're multiplying on something? So
Right.
he's saying it's impossible. It's a mathematical lie to say 1 times 1 equals 1. What's your
Exactly.
thoughts on him saying that the system that we have? Because everybody say the universe is mathematics. But if the
Right.
universe is mathematics, but if our mathematics is based on lies and we base our numerology and everything else on our mathematics, you gotta talk to me, Doc. What's your
It's not
thought?
mathematics. It's not mathematics. It's mathematics to them, but to us, it's ma'at hemetics.
Okay.
It's not mathematics. Mathematics is a kind of twisted perception of ma'at hermetics.
Mm,
Ma'at is balance. It is
yes.
the finding the equilibrium between two forces.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Hermetics is the secret behind that force.
Uh-huh.
So I changed the whole dynamic for my students. It's not mathematics. It's ma'at hermetics.
Maat
And when
hermetics.
you're dealing with numerological aspects of the creator, then you're dealing in the illusory aspect of the one. It
Mm-hmm.
is the one in the dream of itself. And the one is in my book, I have the dream of chaos. I think it's the dream of chaos is order. The nightmare of order is chaos. You see what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
The dream of chaos is order. The nightmare of order is chaos. So it's the same thing. We believe that one thing can become many because we are in that particular societal framework, or what we call consciousness framework, where we live in duality. We live on third density, height, depth, length, width, and so forth. And that becomes an external part of our brain. Our brain is actually locking all that we see into the order that you see here today.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually an illusion that the brain creates in order for it to exist in the particular envelope of consciousness that we presently occupy.
Mm-hmm.
So once we leave the body, there is no such construction around that particular phase of our existence. So when you're dealing with mathematics, you're dealing with the way that the conscious intelligence that expresses itself begins to enumerate. Number has nothing to do with what we see as the multiplication, division, or subtraction, or addition of things. Numbers are consciousness, specific consciousness.
Mm.
And numbers have a specific place within the numerical existence that we're dealing with, which is 1 to 9. There are no other numbers than 9. There are only
Mm-hmm.
9 numbers. Anything after 9 is a kind of extraction process from the invisible into the visible. So you see, when they talk with the number 1, it starts with 0 first and then 1. But then you go all the way to 9, and then the 0 succeeds the 1. Where it
Right.
precedes the 1, it succeeds the 1, which means it's the same. So what you're dealing with on the first levels of condensation, because there's no such thing as creation. That's a misnomer.
Is
Because as
subtraction.
you said, exactly, there's no Nothing goes outside of the creator. There's nothing
Mm-hmm.
outside of the creator.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is within the creator. So the 1 to 9 is a subtraction or a retraction process.
Mm-hmm.
That's that 1/10 that they talk about that we exist in, that the brain exists in.
Mm-hmm.
So mathematics can go on to infinity. And when you're looking at infinity, that's where mathematics come in. But when you're dealing with life and consciousness, then you're dealing with eternity. So
Indeed.
one is masculine, the eternity, and one is feminine, infinity.
Mm-hmm.
So infinity is a numerical progression that goes on forever.
Mm-hmm.
Eternity is within the sphere. It's the sphere within which this particular mathematical process for existence exists.
Mm-hmm. I asked this question to Billy once, and I want to get your answer. I asked it to Billy Carson. I want to get your answer because you just talked about the brain creating this illusionary realm that we're experiencing right now.
Yeah.
And so, if the brain is creating this illusionary realm that I'm experiencing, and my eyes are, it's the only part of the brain that we can see. It's an extension of the brain. My
Mhm.
question to you would be: once the spirit leaves this body, I don't have the brain and I don't have the eyes no more. How can I view, let's say my son, let's say my woman, if they were only part of that avatar experience with the brain and the eyes?
Beautiful.
My brain created them. I don't have the
Mhm.
brain no more. How can I observe them without that part of the avatar?
Residual ectoplasmic material.
What does that mean, Doc? What does that mean?